In an era defined by an overwhelming deluge of data, many of us feel as though our mental gears are grinding to a halt. We live in a world where the sum total of human knowledge is available with a single swipe of a finger, yet we often feel less capable, less focused, and more forgetful than ever before. This paradox of the modern age, having more information but less wisdom, is the central challenge of our time. Why is it that with all these tools at our disposal, we feel increasingly limited by our own cognitive boundaries? The truth is that we have been conditioned to believe in a set of myths about our own potential. We've been told that our intelligence is a fixed number, that our memory naturally withers with age, and that the genius we admire in others is a gift of birth rather than a result of process. This book is designed to shatter those illusions. It is a roadmap for anyone who has ever felt slow, unfocused, or not enough. We are embarking on a journey to unlock the latent power of the human brain, moving past the artificial ceilings imposed by society and our own self-doubt. Throughout these pages, you will discover that your brain is not a static vessel, but a dynamic, ever-changing organ capable of incredible feats of adaptation. We will explore the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, and practical habit formation to provide you with a comprehensive toolkit for mental expansion. You will learn how to reclaim your focus from the digital distractions that plague your daily life, how to fuel your body to support peak cognitive performance, and how to master the ancient art of memory and the modern science of speed reading. This is not just about learning faster. It is about becoming limitless. It is about understanding that the only thing standing between you and the life you want to lead is the way you think, the way you move, and the way you learn. By the end of this journey, you will possess the strategies necessary to transform your mind into your greatest asset, allowing you to achieve anything you set your heart on. The path to an unconditioned, uninhibited mind starts now. Before we dive into the specific techniques and strategies for cognitive enhancement, it is essential to establish a high-level understanding of the limitless philosophy. This book is structured as a progressive building of skills, moving from the foundational mindset shifts required for change to the specific methods that will allow you to execute that change in the real world. We will navigate through three core pillars: mindset, motivation, and methods. First, we address the internal landscape. We will examine how digital technology, while a boon to convenience, has inadvertently created a digital brain drain that saps our ability to think deeply. We will then dismantle the limited ideas entertained, lies that keep us playing small, replacing them with the scientific reality of neuroplasticity. You will learn that your brain is a muscle that can be strengthened, reshaped, and expanded regardless of your age or background. Next, we move into the realm of motivation and biological support. Learning is not just a mental act, it is a physical one. We will explore the vital roles of sleep, nutrition, and movement in creating the energy necessary for high-level thinking. Without the right fuel and rest, even the best strategies will fail. Finally, we will master the methods, the actual how-to of learning. This includes entering the flow state for maximum productivity, utilizing visualization for perfect recall, and mastering speed reading to keep up with the modern world. This orientation serves as your compass. As you move through the chapters, remember that each concept builds upon the last. We are not just adding facts to your head, we are upgrading your mental operating system. Expect to be challenged, but also expect to be amazed at what your mind can truly do when the limits are removed. In the modern landscape, we are constantly tethered to our devices. From the moment we wake up and check our notifications to the late-night scrolling that precedes sleep, digital technology has become an inescapable part of the human experience. At first glance, this seems like a triumph of human ingenuity. We have outsourced the mundane tasks of remembering phone numbers, navigating streets, and looking up trivia to our smartphones. We feel liberated by the fact that we no longer have to carry a heavy load of simple information in our heads. However, there is a hidden cost to this convenience, one that researchers are only beginning to fully understand. The central question we must ask ourselves is whether digital technology is a tool we use or a master that uses us. While it makes life objectively easier in many ways, it is simultaneously creating a digital fog that hinders our ability to learn and process deep information. One of the most prominent voices in this field is neuroscientist Daniel J. Levitin. He has pointed out a disturbing trend in how our brains function in the digital age. Our habit of constantly switching between tasks, going from an email to a text message, then to a social media notification, and back to work, is not multitasking in the way we think it is. Instead, it is a rapid-fire switching of attention that consumes a massive amount of neural fuel. Levitin argues that this process causes the brain to burn through its glucose stores at an alarming rate. The result is not just a lack of focus, but a state of profound mental exhaustion and stress. When we multitask, we aren't being more productive. We are simply making our brains work harder to achieve less. This constant state of distraction prevents us from entering deep states of concentration, which are the only states where true learning and innovation can occur. The sheer volume of information we are forced to process today is staggering. Recent studies indicate that the average person now consumes 3 times as much information on a daily basis as someone living in the 1960s. While access to information is generally good, the way we consume it is problematic. Because we know we can look up any fact at any time, we have stopped trying to commit things to memory. This has led to what some call digital dementia, a state where our memory centers begin to atrophy like an unused muscle. When you don't use your memory, it withers. Conversely, the act of forcing yourself to recall information without reaching for your phone actually creates and strengthens the neural pathways that form long-term memories. Beyond memory, our capacity for critical thinking is also under siege. The internet provides an infinite array of opinions, which should, in theory, make us more well-rounded. However, the opposite is often true. Most people do not use the internet to find diverse perspectives. Instead, they fall into echo chambers, seeking out sources that already align with their existing beliefs. We use technology to reinforce our biases rather than challenge them. This leads to a weakening of our deductive reasoning and problem-solving skills. We become passive consumers of ready-made opinions rather than active thinkers who can synthesize information and reach independent conclusions. To combat this, we must take intentional steps to protect our cognitive health. Jim Quick, a leader in brain performance, suggests a simple but powerful intervention for the digital age: the 30-minute digital fast. Every day, you should dedicate at least 30 minutes to being completely disconnected from all electronic devices. No phone, no laptop, no television. This isn't just about taking a break. It's about giving your brain the space it needs to enter a state of diffuse thinking. This is the time when your mind can wander, be creative, and process the information you've gathered throughout the day. It is in these quiet moments that the aha moments of insight usually occur. It is easy to feel that our brains have been permanently altered by our tech-heavy lifestyles. We worry that our attention spans have been shattered forever. However, the most exciting discovery in modern neuroscience is that the brain is incredibly resilient. It is not a fixed machine, but a living, changing organ. Just as it has adapted to the distractions of the digital age, it can be retrained to focus, remember, and think deeply. In the following chapters, we will explore exactly how to harness this adaptability to reverse the damage of the digital deluge and build a mind that is truly limitless. How many times have you told yourself a story about what you can't do? Perhaps you've said, "I'm just not a math person," or "I have a terrible memory for names," or "I'm too old to learn a new language." These statements feel like objective truths, but they are actually deeply ingrained limited ideas entertained. These are the artificial boundaries we build around our own potential, often based on early failures or comparisons with others. When we see someone who is a polyglot or a mathematical genius, we assume they were born with a better brain than ours. This belief is not only discouraging, it is scientifically inaccurate. The reality is that your brain is neuroplastic. This term, which has revolutionized the field of neuroscience over the last few decades, refers to the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. For a long time, the prevailing medical wisdom was that the brain developed until adolescence and then remained static or began a slow decline. We now know this is false. Your brain changes every single day in response to your environment, your thoughts, and your actions. You have the power to literally reshape the physical structure of your brain through the process of learning. A classic and powerful example of neuroplasticity in action can be found in the study of London taxi drivers. To earn a license in London, a prospective driver must pass an incredibly rigorous exam known as the Knowledge. This requires them to memorize the layout of 25,000 streets within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross, along with thousands of landmarks and points of interest. This process typically takes 3 to 4 years of intense study and street work. Researchers decided to use MRI scans to compare the brains of these cab drivers with those of a control group of ordinary citizens. The results were astounding. The taxi drivers had significantly more gray matter in their posterior hippocampus, the region of the brain associated with spatial memory and navigation. Furthermore, the researchers found that the longer a driver had been on the job, the larger that specific part of their brain had become. The act of learning those thousands of streets had forced their brains to create new neural pathways and physically expand the memory center to accommodate the new information. This proves that the brain is not a fixed vessel. It is a muscle that grows when it is challenged. If a London cabbie can grow their memory center by learning a map, you can do the same for any skill you wish to master. But before you can begin this growth, you must purge your mind of the lies that hold you back. The most pervasive of these is the idea that your IQ is a fixed, unchangeable number that determines your destiny. While your score on a specific IQ test might remain relatively stable over time, IQ is a very narrow measure of intelligence. It does not measure your capacity for creativity, your emotional intelligence, or most importantly, your ability to learn. Intelligence is not a static trait. It is a set of behaviors and a process of growth. When you believe your intelligence is fixed, you become afraid of failure because every mistake feels like a confirmation of your limitations. When you embrace a growth mindset, you see every challenge as an opportunity to build new neural connections. Everyone has the potential for genius-level performance in some area of their life. The difference between those who achieve it and those who don't is often simply a matter of belief and persistent practice. To unlock your limitless potential, you must start thinking of your brain as a work in progress. Stop saying, "I can't," and start saying, "I haven't learned how to do that yet." By divesting yourself of the negative lies you've entertained for years, you open the door to a new reality. You are not stuck with the brain you have today. You are the architect of your own mind, and with the right tools and the right mindset, you can build a cognitive powerhouse that exceeds your wildest expectations. The journey to a limitless mind begins with the simple, radical act of believing that it is possible. Every single day, your mind is a hive of activity, processing tens of thousands of thoughts. Many of these thoughts are fleeting, but a significant portion of them are repetitive. Within this constant internal monologue, we all have what are known as dominant questions. These are the subconscious inquiries that run in the background of our minds, shaping our focus, our moods, and our actions. Because your brain is a highly efficient goal-seeking mechanism, it will always prioritize finding answers to the questions you ask it most frequently. If you ask negative questions, you will get negative results. A fascinating story that illustrates this concept involves the author's time spent with the legendary actor Will Smith. They were on a film set in Toronto during a particularly brutal winter. The production was grueling, with the cast and crew working overnight shifts from 6:00 p.m. to 6:00 a.m. in sub-zero temperatures. In such conditions, it would be natural for anyone to be miserable, complaining about the cold and the exhaustion. However, Smith's energy remained high and infectious. Upon closer observation and conversation, the author discovered that Smith had a dominant question that he applied to almost every situation. How do I make this experience more magical? Because this was his dominant question, Smith's brain was constantly scanning the environment for ways to fulfill that goal. During breaks, instead of retreating to a warm trailer to rest, he would go around cracking jokes, bringing hot chocolate to the crew, and finding ways to lift everyone's spirits. By asking how to make the moment magical, he transformed a miserable experience into a positive one for himself and everyone around him. His question dictated his reality. Now contrast that with the dominant questions many of us habitually ask. Often they are disempowering or rooted in fear. We might ask, why does this always happen to me? Or how can I get people to like me? Or how can I avoid making a fool of myself? These questions are not productive. They force the brain to focus on your insecurities and perceived failures. If you ask, why am I so bad at this? Your brain will dutifully provide a list of all your flaws and past mistakes to answer the question. This masks your authentic self and traps you in a cycle of self-criticism. To shift to a limitless mindset, you must consciously choose new, empowering, dominant questions. These will be different for everyone, but they should be focused on growth and contribution. The author uses questions like, how do I make this better? And how does my mind work so I can work my mind? These questions keep the focus on agency and improvement. When you ask, how can I use this? Or how can I learn from this? You are training your brain to see opportunity where others see obstacles. This shift in mindset isn't just positive thinking fluff. It has tangible benefits for your physical and mental health. Research has shown that individuals with a positive outlook are 13% less likely to suffer from heart attacks or clinical depression. By changing your internal narrative, you are literally changing your biology. You are reducing the stress hormones that cloud your judgment and increasing the neurochemicals that facilitate learning and creativity. A practical way to begin this transformation is to catch yourself in the act of negative self-talk. Whenever you find yourself using phrases like I can't, I'm not, or I don't, stop and flip the script. Replace I'm not good at this with I haven't mastered this yet, but I am improving. Remind yourself of times when you did succeed, however small those victories might have been. Another powerful technique is to externalize your inner critic. Give that negative voice a ridiculous persona. Imagine it as a kooky, cartoonish character with a silly name and absurd features. When it tells you that you're going to fail, mock it. By detaching that voice from your identity, you gain the perspective needed to realize that the critic is not the real you. It is just a collection of old, limited ideas. As you learn to silence the critic and ask better questions, you open your mind to the joy of life and the infinite possibilities that a limitless mindset offers. You can have the most advanced learning strategies in the world in a perfectly positive mindset, but if your biological hardware is failing, you will never reach your full potential. Many people struggle with brain fog, lack of motivation, and poor memory not because they aren't smart, but because they are physically depleted. The brain is a high-energy organ. Though it only accounts for about 2% of your body weight, it consumes 20% of your energy. To function at a limitless level, you must support your brain through three critical pillars: sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Let's start with the most neglected pillar, sleep. In our hustle culture, many people view sleep as a luxury or even a sign of weakness. This is a dangerous misconception. Sleep deprivation is linked to a terrifying array of health issues, including heart disease, depression, irritability, and a significantly increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. When you sleep, your brain is not off. Instead, it is performing essential maintenance, such as clearing out metabolic waste via the lymphatic system and consolidating memories. If you sacrifice sleep, you are essentially trying to run a high-performance engine without ever changing the oil. You will eventually crash. Interestingly, sleep and exercise share a deep, symbiotic relationship. Regular physical activity is one of the most effective ways to improve the quality of your sleep. In one notable 16-week study focusing on the effects of aerobic exercise on sedentary adults with sleep issues, the results were clear. Those who engaged in regular gym sessions found that they slept significantly longer each night, averaging an extra 1.25 hours of rest. This creates a virtuous cycle. Exercise helps you sleep, and better sleep gives you more energy to exercise. We often make excuses to avoid exercise. It's boring, we don't have time, or the gym is too expensive. But when we realize that exercise is actually brain medicine, those excuses lose their power. Aerobic exercise, in particular, has been shown to increase the size of the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for verbal memory and learning. By moving your body, you are literally growing your brain. You don't need a marathon. Even a brisk daily walk can have profound effects on your cognitive clarity and mood. The third pillar is nutrition. Your brain is made of what you eat. Neuroscientist and nutritionist Dr. Lisa Mosconi has identified 45 distinct nutrients that are essential for optimal brain function. While a balanced diet is key, she highlights 10 brain foods that should be staples in your diet. 1. Avocados, high in monounsaturated fats that promote healthy blood flow. 2. Blueberries, packed with antioxidants that protect the brain from oxidative stress. 3. Broccoli asterisk, a great source of vitamin K, which is known to enhance cognitive function. 4. Dark chocolate asterisk, contains flavonoids that improve blood flow to the brain and boost mood. 5. Eggs asterisk, rich in choline, a nutrient used to create acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter important for mood and memory. 6. Leafy greens asterisk, like spinach and kale, which are loaded with brain-healthy nutrients like vitamin K, lutein, and folate. 7. Salmon, a prime source of omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for brain structure. 8. Turmeric asterisk, contains curcumin, which has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefits that can cross the blood-brain barrier. 9. Walnuts asterisk, high in DHA, a type of omega-3 fatty acid that has been shown to improve cognitive performance. 10. Water. Your brain is about 75% water. Even mild dehydration can impair your focus and short-term memory. The challenge, of course, is making these healthy choices a permanent part of your life. Building a new habit is not an overnight process. Research suggests it can take anywhere from 18 to 254 days for a new behavior to become automatic. The key is to start small. Don't try to overhaul your entire life in one day. Start by adding one brain food to your lunch, or committing to a 10-minute walk, or going to bed 15 minutes earlier. These small, incremental changes will eventually coalesce into a lifestyle that supports a limitless brain. By treating your body with the respect it deserves, you provide your mind with the energy it needs to perform miracles. We have all experienced moments where time seems to disappear. You are working on a project, playing an instrument, or engaging in a sport, and everything just clicks. You are fully immersed, your self-consciousness vanishes, and your performance reaches a peak. Psychologists call this the state of flow. It is the ultimate limitless state. When you are in flow, your productivity doesn't just increase slightly. Research suggests it can skyrocket by as much as 500%. In flow, the difficult becomes easy and the mundane becomes engaging. Achieving flow is not a matter of luck. It is a matter of creating the right conditions. The most significant barrier to flow is distraction. In our modern world, we are interrupted every few minutes by a ping, a buzz, or a tap on the shoulder. These interruptions are more damaging than they seem. Studies show that after a single interruption, it can take up to 20 minutes for the brain to fully reconnect with the original task and regain its previous level of focus. If you are checking your phone every 10 minutes, you are effectively living in a state of permanent cognitive fragmentation. You will never reach flow in that environment. To kickstart flow, you must aggressively eliminate distractions. Turn off your notifications, close unnecessary browser tabs, and let people know you are unavailable. You also need to allocate a sufficient block of time. Flow doesn't happen in 15-minute bursts. You should plan for at least 90 minutes of uninterrupted work, though 2 hours is often the sweet spot for deep immersion. Furthermore, you must abandon the myth of multitasking. Multitasking is the enemy of flow. It forces your brain to constantly reset, preventing it from gaining the momentum necessary for deep focus. However, we all face tasks that are not conducive to flow, tasks that are boring, repetitive, or intimidatingly large. This is where procrastination often takes hold. Procrastination is not just a time management issue, it is an emotional regulation issue. When we face a task that makes us feel anxious or overwhelmed, we avoid it to seek short-term mood repair. But this avoidance comes at a high psychological cost. This is known as the Zyroverse effect. Uncompleted tasks create a tension in the brain. They loop in your subconscious, draining your energy and making you feel guilty. This guilt leads to shame, which leads to more procrastination, a vicious cycle that can paralyze even the most talented individuals. The secret to crushing procrastination and eventually finding flow in difficult tasks is the power of baby steps. When a project feels too big to handle, our brain's fight or flight response kicks in. By breaking the task down into ridiculously small, non-threatening steps, you bypass that fear response. For example, if you have to write a massive 20-page speech, don't focus on the 20 pages. That's too daunting. Instead, tell yourself your only job for the next 10 minutes is to write the first 3 bullet points of the outline. Or even simpler, just open the document and type the title. By taking that first tiny step, you break the seal of procrastination. Often, once you start, the Zyroverse effect begins to work in your favor. Now that the task is started, your brain wants to see it through to completion. You may find that after those first 3 bullet points, you've found your rhythm, and you end up writing for an hour. By combining the environmental controls for flow with the psychological strategy of baby steps, you can transform your productivity. You move from being a passive victim of your to-do list to being an active, focused creator. You learn to work with your brain's natural rhythms rather than against them, making the impossible possible through the simple application of focused effort and incremental progress. Memory is often misunderstood as a thing we have, like a hard drive with a fixed capacity. We say things like, "I have a bad memory," as if it were a permanent physical disability. But memory is not a thing, it is a process. It is more like a muscle than a container. Just as you can train your body to lift heavier weights, you can train your memory to retain vast amounts of information. The key to a limitless memory is moving from rote memorization, the repeat it until it sticks method, to sophisticated visualization and association techniques. Concentration is the foundation of memory. You cannot remember what you did not pay attention to in the first place. One effective way to build your concentration muscle is the glowing ball of light technique. When you are in a conversation or reading a book, imagine the object of your focus is a brilliant, glowing ball of light. If your mind begins to wander toward your grocery list or a past argument, gently but firmly pull your attention back to that bright light. By visualizing your focus as a physical object, you make it easier to manage. You are training your brain to ignore the noise and stay locked onto the signal. Once you have focused on the information, how do you make it stick? The brain is not designed to remember abstract lists of words or numbers. It is designed to remember images and stories. To memorize anything, you must turn it into a vivid, even crazy mental picture. The more ridiculous, colorful, and sensory-rich the image, the more likely your brain is to retain it. Let's try an example. Imagine you need to remember this list of 6 random items: fire hydrant, balloon, battery, barrel, board, and diamond. If you just repeat them over and over, you'll likely forget them within an hour. But try this story instead. Imagine a giant, bright red *** fire hydrant on your front lawn. Suddenly, thousands of colorful *** balloons * tie themselves to the hydrant and lift it into the sky. As it floats up, a giant *** battery ** flies out of nowhere and starts popping the balloons. The battery then falls and lands inside a massive wooden barrel asterisk. That barrel is then launched into the air by a huge wooden board that's acting like a seesaw. And finally, you look under the board and see it's being propped up by a massive, sparkling diamond asterisk. By creating this narrative, you've linked the items together in a way that your brain finds sticky. You can see the story unfolding, and because the images are unusual, they stand out in your mental landscape. For more complex information, such as a speech or a series of key points for a meeting, you can use the method of loci, also known as the memory palace. This technique dates back to ancient Greece and is still used by world memory champions today. It involves using a physical space you know well, like your childhood home or your current apartment, as a filing cabinet for information. To use the loci method, pick a familiar route through your chosen space. Identify 10 specific stations along that route, e.g., the front door, the hallway mirror, the kitchen sink. Then take the 10 points you want to remember and place a vivid, exaggerated image representing each point at a different station. When it's time to give your presentation, you simply take a mental walk through your house. As you see the kitchen sink, you'll automatically remember the point you associated with it. With these visualization techniques, you stop being a victim of forgetfulness. You realize that there is no such thing as a bad memory, only an untrained one. By engaging your imagination and your spatial awareness, you can master new languages, give flawless presentations without notes, and become an expert in any field. Your memory is a vast, untapped resource. All you need are the right architectural tools to start building. Reading is arguably the most important skill for anyone seeking to live a limitless life. There is a direct, measurable correlation between reading ability and success in almost every field. High-level executives, innovators, and world leaders are almost always voracious readers. This is because reading is a comprehensive workout for the brain. Unlike watching a video, which is a passive experience, reading requires your brain to simultaneously process symbols, visualize concepts, and synthesize complex ideas. If you stop reading, you effectively stop growing. The problem is that most of us are reading at an elementary level. Most adults read at a speed of about 200 words per minute, which is roughly the same speed as a fifth grader. This is because our formal reading education usually ends in primary school. We were taught how to sound out words, but we were never taught how to process information at the speed of thought. One of the biggest obstacles to fast reading is a habit called subvocalization. Subvocalization is that inner voice that says the words in your head as you read them. While this was helpful when you were learning to read, it now acts as a speed limit. If you have to say every word in your head, you can only read as fast as you can talk. But your brain is capable of processing visual information much faster than your mouth can move. To become a limitless reader, you must learn to see the words as images rather than sounds. A powerful, albeit challenging, way to break the subvocalization habit is the counting technique. As you read, count out loud or in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. This occupies the auditory part of your brain with a repetitive task, making it harder for that inner voice to pronounce the words on the page. Initially, your comprehension might dip, but you are training your brain to bypass the sound and go straight to the meaning. Reading starts to feel less like listening to a speech and more like watching a movie. Another essential tool for the speed reader is a pacer. This can be your finger, a pen, or even a cursor. By moving a pacer under the line of text as you read, you give your eyes a moving target to follow. Human eyes are biologically hardwired to track movement, an evolutionary trait for spotting predators or prey. When you use a pacer, your eyes stop jumping around the page, a phenomenon called saccades, and start moving in a smooth, continuous flow. Simply using a finger can increase your reading speed by 25 to 100% almost instantly. Of course, speed is useless without comprehension. The goal isn't just to flip pages, it's to absorb knowledge. This requires commitment. You should schedule at least 30 minutes of dedicated reading time every day. Treat it like an appointment with your own growth. As your reading speed increases, you will be able to consume more books, gain more perspectives, and stay ahead of the curve in our fast-paced world. The final piece of the limitless puzzle is learning how to think about what you read. Speed reading gives you the data, but critical thinking allows you to use it. By mastering the art of visual reading, you free up mental energy to analyze, question, and apply the information you consume. You move from being a slow, passive reader to a fast, active thinker. This literacy advantage is the ultimate force multiplier for your intelligence, providing you with the keys to unlock any door you encounter on your journey. As we reach the conclusion of this journey, it is worth looking back at how far we've come. We began by acknowledging the heavy toll that the digital age has taken on our focus and memory, recognizing that while technology is a gift, it must be managed with intention. We moved through the liberating reality of neuroplasticity, proving that no one is stuck with the brain they were born with. We explored the power of our internal narrative and the vital importance of fueling our biological engine with sleep, movement, and the right nutrients. Finally, we mastered the tactical methods of flow, visualization, and speed reading. The most important takeaway from these pages is that Limitless is not a destination. It is a way of being. It is a commitment to the idea that you can always improve, always learn, and always expand. The barriers you once thought were permanent, your IQ, your age, your past failures, are actually just illusions that can be dismantled through consistent practice and the right strategies. You now possess a toolkit that most people will never even know exists. However, knowledge alone is not power. Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes real power when you apply it. I encourage you to pick one or two of the techniques we've discussed, perhaps the 30-minute digital fast or the baby steps approach to a difficult project, and implement them today. Don't wait for the perfect time to start your transformation. Small, incremental changes are the foundation of massive results. Think about what your life could look like a year from now if you committed to being just 1% better every day. Imagine the books you'll have read, the skills you'll have mastered, and the confidence you'll have built. The world needs people who have unconditioned their minds and reclaimed their potential. By becoming limitless, you don't just improve your own life. You become a beacon of possibility for everyone around you. You have the map, you have the fuel, and you have the engine. Now, it's time to see how far you can go. For more book summaries for free, install Zyroverse.